move on to the things that I liked about this series. And there is quite a reasonable amount that I did like about this series. The VFX in this season were greatly improved. Some of the best VFX, well, the best VFX Doctor Who has ever seen, in my opinion. Particularly standouts in terms of VFX were the Ghost Monument and Ranskoor AV Kolos, the Battle of Ranskoor AV Kolos. I also want to throw in, I'm also going to throw in Kablam, because that was a really interesting one, with the robots and so on. Some great VFX moments here. The music, up until the season finale, was phenomenal. I really liked how it felt more part of the episode rather than separate, which is going to be weird listening to it by itself when the soundtrack comes out next year. It'll be on Spotify and YouTube and all that, so I won't buy it, but yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be weird to listen to it without the soundtrack, because even now if you listen to the ripped versions that are on YouTube, you still have a bit of the soundtrack, the actual talking in it. You can still kind of hear the dialogue, which is one of the bad sides about listening to a ripped soundtrack. But yeah, the music was good up until the season finale, when I felt they did need to have some kind of big, you know, bombastic score, and I kind of missed Murray Gold at that point. In some ways I do wish that Murray Gold and Sagan Akinola had worked together, because I think the combination of their two musics would have, the two different styles of scoring would really have worked together. And I know in Classic Who they didn't really have one scorer for every season or era of the show, they just had a scorer per story, I believe, because I've listened to the score for Mysterious Planet and it has a different score, I can't remember what composer compared to the other stories of the season. I mean, they're different composers for each story, so it's interesting. It'd be nice to see maybe Murray Gold, if Sagan Akinola has sort of lifted a weight off Murray Gold and just sort of helped him out, because I really do miss in the season finale Murray's big bombastic epic big bang here, big bang there sort of score. Another thing I liked was the title sequences. I cannot stress how much I loved the title sequences. I love the fact that they brought them back to the start of the episode rather than having them like 5 minutes in. I just think it works better personally. I just think it's a bit weird to have 5 minutes of the story and then suddenly the title sequence starts. I know you have that sort of cliffhanger, and maybe it would have benefited this series as it doesn't have any cliffhangers, because of course it's all individual episodes, so the story has to conclude within the 50-minute mark, which doesn't help, because although they've added on that extra 5 minutes, it's still not enough to spread out the entire story, or feel like, because at the endings still feel rushed as well. So yeah, but the titles, so glad to have them back at the front of the episode. It just like opens the story with a bit of happiness, because that music is just, the theme music is just a little slice of happiness really to me. Yeah, I really did like that they brought it. The titles themselves, they look fabulous. I love the VFX here, really shine. They're the greatest VFX shots of the entire series. The logo, I have grown to like it. Although it's still not the best logo, it's still really nice. Yeah, so yeah, the titles, set locations, filming locations, sets, everything, they were all wonderful. The sets in Kablam and the Saranga Conundrum were definite highlights, and the location shooting in The Witchfinders, the Battle of Ranskoor Eve Kolos, the Ghost Monument and the Demons of the Punjab were definite highlights of set location. I also love the fact they went to Sheffield to film episodes 1 and 2. I mean episodes 1 and 4. I love the fact they actually have that honest feel to it rather than getting Cardiff to pretend to be Sheffield, which is nice. Some nice familiar locations, maybe not for me, but for my parents, considering they left there. But yeah, so nice set locations. In terms of characters, the people I liked, I loved the relationship between Graham and Ryan and how that progressed over the series. I think that's one of the best story arcs we've had, because it's an emotional story arc, and that's one of the other things this series works well on. It's the fact that it has an emotional story arc, which is something Russell T Davies did. He would have an emotional story arc and then a big serious story arc, which is one of the things missing from this series. I think if there was a story arc to this season leading up to the finale, it would make it slightly better. Like even if they just mentioned Tim Shaw and or the fact that planets will go missing, it would just, and then have that emotional storyline, it would be quite the improvement, a massive improvement actually, I'd go dare to say, to this season. And it definitely made me feel much more happy towards it. Yeah, I'm much more appreciative of a story arc. But I do love the relationship between Graham and Ryan and how it progresses, from the fact that he's not willing to call Graham Grandad at the start of the series, to the fact that he calls him Grandad towards the end, and then the fist bump in the season finale is just a great scene. It's so happy and joyous. And I just love Graham, really. He's such a great companion, by far one of the best companions we've had. And I hate to say it, but it seems like he was the only actor that was actually chosen on merit. Because, I mean, I liked Ryan, and I just felt that Yaz fell flat and that she was just cast because of who she was. I mean, she has talent when she's actually in an episode, but she just gets sidelined. And then Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, which we'll get onto in a minute, but yeah. We'll get on to Jodie Whittaker's final opinion on Jodie's Doctor in a minute, but yeah, I have a lot to say on her. Grace, the reoccurring theme of grief between Grace and Graham is an interesting story plot, and how it leads into, of course, Grace's return in It Takes You Away. That's a lovely scene. I really do love how she returns. It's a really nice moment. Particularly for Graham as a character. Also Shandy Clark as an actress. In many ways I do wish, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I wish that it had been the Doctor, Ryan and Graham and Grace instead of the Doctor, Ryan and Graham and Yaz. Because I think it would be nice to have a TARDIS family again. Because the characters do feel kind of related. It just feels like Yaz is unnecessarily, she's just shoved in there. Because she needs to be there. I mean, you could have had a TARDIS team with just the Doctor, Graham and Ryan, really. I mean, why do we really need Yaz? She really doesn't need to be here. I'm not a great fan on Yaz. I'll get to her in a minute too. A meh thing. I'm going to say thing. The meh thing here is Jodie Whittaker's performance as the Doctor. I find it incredibly hard to believe that Jodie Whittaker, by the end of the series, was chosen on merit and not because of her gender. I sincerely hope Chris Chibnall did not just go out there to cast a white female Doctor. If she had, I'm sure he didn't, but if he hadn't considered male actors, black actors, or just also it really annoys me that he's paid a massive favour to Jodie Whittaker. Because really, essentially, she was on Broadchurch. I think she would have been better as a villain. She is good. She is good in the pilot episode. She is good in Rosa. She's good in the Ghost Monument. She's good in Kablam, and she's kind of annoying in Kablam, but she's alright. She's got some good moments in the finale, but not much. But she is overall really quite a meh Doctor, and I find it incredibly hard to say because I do always have things that I like about Doctors, and this Doctor I struggle to find qualities or quirks that I do like about her. I mean, I like her coat and I like her blue, like, sort of trousers-like thing. I would say her braces, but that's just stolen from another Doctor, along with a rainbow across her shirt. It's just Tom Baker's scarf. I can't say I like her sonic screwdriver, because that just looks a bit weird. Although it does look better when you have it up close and personal. I mean, I've seen a toy version of it, which I've put away for Christmas. And that looks slightly better, but I like her. The one defining thing I can say that I do like about her is her socks. I just love her socks. I don't know why, I just love her socks. They're more unique to her, because it's the kind of thing that isn't really expressed in terms of Doctors. It's one of those things I remember the most about her is her socks for some reason. It's just one of those things that leave me an impact, just the tiny things. Because there are things about Jodie's Doctor I do like. She is very good when she's not written by Chris Chibnall. She is alright. She is good in the pilot episode. I think Jodie is really shining through what is essentially quite some bad source material. And it kind of shows. But she does overact at points. She's not the greatest actress in the world. I mean, within Broadchurch there are better actresses. Olivia Colman would have been perfect for this role. I mean that sincerely. I seriously wish that the Doctor had been cast as Olivia Colman. I mean, it works. Chris Chibnall worked with her on Broadchurch. It'd be awesome, because then you have a two-Doctor dynamic between the David Tennant and Olivia Colman in Broadchurch. Maybe it's like the two Doctors. It's a multi-Doctor story then. Imagine that. I mean, imagine the street cred Chris Chibnall would have got for having basically 2 seasons of multi-Doctor stories. You know? And I really think Olivia Colman is a great actress. She could have nailed this performance. I mean, even if they cast someone like Maggie Smith, who I know is a bit old for the role, but that didn't stop other actresses like, I mean, actors like Peter Capaldi and William Hartnell, they're both very old. But even if Maggie Smith had just done 1 season, it would have been one of the best seasons, I think, because she is such a phenomenal actress. Or Dame Judi Dench, she would have been another great actress to play the Doctor. I just do not think Jodie Whittaker was chosen on merit. I think she was chosen because of who she is, to create a political standoff that would cause a ratings rise, which I kind of hate the fact that it has worked, because I really kind of hope that maybe they would have learned a lesson rather than casting Jodie Whittaker, who is not actually, I've noticed from her interviews, isn't actually the nicest of people. I mean, if you have Tom Baker, quite happy to move his beer for a orange juice. Jodie Whittaker freely admitted she drank half a bottle of wine in an interview. And that's not to mention the other things she gave away in interviews as well. It's just not, she's just not the greatest actress I think they could have played this role at all. She's just not the Doctor to me at all. She's a completely different character. Particularly off screen as an actress, she's not going to be she's not the greatest role model at all. At all. She's one of the least favourite role models. I mean, especially when there's so many greater actresses out there that you could have cast a female Doctor that I would have liked. I just don't think she was right for this role at all. Maybe if she had a guest role, like Sean Dooley had a guest role, like, I wouldn't have minded. Like, that would have been alright if Jodie Whittaker had been cast in a guest role, because she can act! She can sometimes overact, but she can act. But yeah, Jodie Whittaker was not the right actress to play the Doctor. Especially when there were so many that could have. I mean, I personally would have preferred a male Doctor, that's just my opinion. In my opinion, I do think the Doctor should be a male, because although you can change a gender in the Doctor Who universe, I don't know if it really... It's just my personal opinion. I don't hate against people who do like the idea of having a female Doctor. I'm fine if that's your opinion. I won't hold it against you as long as you don't hold my opinion against me. I don't think there should be a female Doctor, that's it. But I would appreciate it if they had chosen a good actress to play the first female Doctor, and maybe I would have warmed to the idea more, because Jodie Whittaker just was not right for this role at all. Believe it or not, that was the meh side. Now we get on to the things I did not like. Most writing for this season. The guest writers themselves have been the best writers, but 6 out of 10 episodes I have thought poorly upon. Most of them were the 5 Chris Chibnall stories. Chris Chibnall is quite possibly the worst showrunner this Doctor Who has ever had. He just cannot write an episode of Doctor Who for the life of him. He has never really written a good Doctor Who story, in my opinion. I can't really think of one that is particularly memorable. Of course we have The Woman Who Fell to Earth now is quite memorable, because of course it's the episode to introduce a whole new era, as well as being the first with a female Doctor. Yeah, so he has one memorable story, but the rest of his stories aren't that memorable. For all the fact that I like The Ghost Monument, it isn't very memorable. Neither is Ranskoe v Kolos. Arachnids in the UK and Tsuranga Conundrum certainly are not memorable or enjoyable. I mean, at least The Ghost Monument is entertaining. I mean, The Woman Who Fell to Earth and the Battle of Ranskoe v Kolos are entertaining, but not to the same degree. It's not really the same. I don't enjoy them for the same reasons. But yeah, I did not like Chris Chibnall as a showrunner. He just cannot, he just doesn't understand the show as well as other, especially when you look back at some of the things he did as a fan. He was actually a major critic to Colin Baker's final season. He was on a public show as well, which is kind of cringy when you look back at it, because it's from the 80s. It's sort of an after show, giving their opinion about the show. So yeah, Chris Chibnall needs to get out. I'm sorry, but he should not. I hope we get to see more of these companions, particularly Graham and Ryan. Maybe not Yaz. I do not like Yaz. She just is not a good character. I tried to have some leniency towards her. She only has 2 good episodes in my opinion, really, and that's Kablam and Dim the Punjab. Except from that, she just does not do anything. She's completely forgettable. Sometimes when I come out of an episode, I can't even remember what she did in that episode. She's so annoying, and she's one of the worst actresses, and she comes through as one of the actresses who was chosen for her ethnicity rather than her talent. Ryan and Graham, I can believe, were chosen for their talent. The Doctor and Yaz, I cannot believe. I'm sorry, but I can't. I find it incredibly hard to believe that. Again, with Jodie Clark, I can believe she was chosen on merit alone, not because of her ethnicity. But the Doctor and Yaz, I do not believe were chosen on merits alone, which is one of my deepest fears going into this season, is that casting would be thrown out the door and it would just be, like, proper casting would be just thrown out the door and they would just cast based on ethnicity. And it has kind of half and half worked. For this series. I think there were more better guest casts than negative guest casts. There are a few guest casts I wasn't overly keen on, but yeah. Mark Addy was a highlight actually. I didn't really quite stress this enough. I really wish Mark Addy and Lee Mack had got more to do. I really wish they had. Alan Cumming seemed more like a publicity stunt, and it kind of didn't really pay off as well because it sort of ended up not really working out as well, but because he wasn't a good actor for the role of King James I. I think Alan Cumming could have done a different role, but he wasn't right for the role he was doing. Alan Cumming and Mark Addy, they got underused because Mark Addy had a great character in Palatraki in the season finale, and Lee Mack had a great character as well, and he was underused. I mean, instead we got stuck with Charlie and what's her name from Kablam. They just why could we have them and not Lee Mack's character? It was such a disappointment, because they were genuinely good actors, and there are some actors I can believe were chosen on merit, and I think the majority I can believe were chosen on merit. There are a few I can clearly see were chosen because of their ethnicity and to promote the message of this series, which is clearly not the same as it was just last year. Villains! Yay! My favourite thing. I've been looking forward to talking about the villains for quite some time. Yes, the villains. The villains, in short, were some of the worst villains I have ever seen on television, film, or even comics, books, radio. Some of the worst villains in the entire world. None of them felt threatening. None of them had left an impression on me. None of them really wanted to make me hide behind the sofas except the spiders, and I'm arachnophobic. And I can see how maybe if you weren't arachnophobic, they wouldn't really be scary, because I'm scared just by the way they move. Simply, if you have an 8-legged pixelated thing, no matter how good the VFX, if it's an 8-legged and it moves, I will jump and scream. But yeah, I do not find anything threatening or imposing or just generally tormenting at all. Nothing really worked. None of the villains were good this series. None of them. Krasko, no, even Krasko was a weak villain, although he had some interesting moments as a character. But yeah, none of the villains really worked. Yaz, I've talked about Yaz now. But yeah, so they were all the negative things about this season. Now we move on to what I would do to improve this season. So what would I do to improve this season? First of all, get Chris, Jodie and Yaz out of the way. Maybe Jodie could stay, because I just hope she can mature under a different screenwriter, because clearly Chris Chibnall is kind of using her to a way that I don't think even Jodie is really aware of. But Yaz certainly needs to leave, and so does Chris Chibnall. Chris Chibnall's stories have been one of the most dire of this season. It's vital that he leaves. I'm sorry, but it is. He's quite possibly the worst showrunner ever. And I can see why he might have been a good producer, just not a showrunner, or a lead writer, or anything. He cannot lead in terms of writing. His entire guest cast outshone him, except for one member of the guest cast, which is quite some feat, because although the writing teams on both Russell T Davies's and Stephen Moffat's eras were good, they never outshone them, except during season 6 and 7 for Stephen Moffat. After that point, none of the writers outshone him again. Stephen Moffat clearly was the lead writer, and he was leading by example by giving us good stories, particularly towards the end of his run as well, where he did start to improve. I know a lot of people don't think he did improve. I think he had a massive drop after season 5 and began to improve with Peter Capaldi personally, although it wasn't a massive improvement, so it's still seen as quite a negative run of episodes. But yeah, get Chris Chibnall the hell out of here. Another thing, Doctor Who has been delayed until 2020, so that means there's an extra 2 months of production compared to the amount of time season 11 got. I would just like to say, focus more on storylines in terms of stories, arcs and themes, because there wasn't a great bombastic arc apart from the emotional one. Hopefully now we've had an emotional one, we'll get a big threatening arc going into the next story, next season. Yeah, get an arc. I really hope Yaz leaves. I'm just going to stress this. Yaz just needs to leave. I'm sorry, just stay in Sheffield at the end of the New Year's Day special. Maybe it would be beneficial to Yaz to have them all leave, because then we might, and I feel like we get a different sort, because I mean the New Year's Day special is so close to the end of the series, it can feel like another instalment. In many ways, I might think if the Daleks do return, or the Ice Warriors, or some big bombastic story, if the next episode, if the New Year's Day special is good, I might be willing to say have your companions exit there and have a different set of companions for season 12 to keep that audience momentum going, because otherwise, I'm afraid ratings did drop. No matter what you say, they dropped. The final figure for the live audience for episode 1 was over 8 million. Now the final live figure for the season for episode 10 was over 5 million. It was just under 6 million. Well, it was under 6 million by quite a while actually, but seriously, that is a drop. I know a lot of people won't say it's a drop, but it is a drop. And you need to have that audience momentum to keep going. And if you have new companions at the start of every season, how do you think Russell T Davies kept momentum going for every season? He had a new companion introduced each season, which had more interesting. People were more intrigued to find out what happened. This series, Jodie Whittaker was enough to entice more viewers. Next series, you need to introduce new companions. Otherwise, viewers will just leave because there'll be nothing left for them to be interested about. But yeah. Spend more time thinking about villains as well, and storylines and all that stuff. You really need to take this extra time to think about that. But apart from that, there was some good moments here. Writers to keep. I would keep Ed Heim and Mallory Blackman. And the writer of Kablam. I'd keep those 3 on your writing team, because they did deliver the best stories of the season. And I would maybe say that Mallory Blackman should take over as showrunner. I know, because she really would be chosen on talent, because she is a bloody brilliant writer. I mean that from the heart. She wrote the best story by quite a way. Her episode was far superior to any of Chris Chibnall's stories, and shone above the rest of the series by quite some limelight. But yeah. Really spend some time thinking about storylines, arcs, themes. Just spend your time on that, because otherwise you're gonna need something to entice more viewers and to keep your audience and momentum going into season 12, which is a whole year it's over a year away. So you do need to focus. I mean, making people wait even longer than normal, 2 months longer, you're going to lose viewers if you're not careful. So you need to keep momentum going. In 2019, I would definitely do some more keep advertising, trailers. I'd be more careful with your advertising strategy, because leading to series 11 you didn't know much. When there was a shorter gap, maybe that was slightly better, but you do need to have a constant, you need to be careful with constant flow of information, because otherwise if there's not something to entice viewers to get them intrigued on, just it's that fine balance between giving away too much and giving away too little. It's a very hard line to walk. Doctor Who has walked in the past, I'd argue, between season 3 and 4, 4 and 5, so on like that. You need to have just the right amount of information, not take away too much information like they did in between 2015 and 2017. Which they didn't have, they had much longer, so they did need to have an audience grow quickly, because otherwise they would lose the viewers, and they did really have quite low viewing figures during season 10, but it would be made worse if they hadn't revealed that information, so I am more lenient to that case. But you know, you do need to have, you need to have a constant flow of information without giving away too much. Merchandise, release more merchandise. Doctor Who is currently on a high. Character options, if you are watching this, release more action figures, play sets, toys, roleplay things, sonic screwdrivers, all kinds of other things. I don't know, as Halloween approaches around in October, maybe release a 13th Doctor costume or a Stenza costume. There is interest for this. You just have to capitalise on it. I mean, we're getting the box set in the new year. We're also getting the soundtrack in the new year. Focus, you just need to keep your eye on that and just keep people interested. At Comic-Con I would have a trailer, personally. Definitely have a trailer at Comic-Con, otherwise there will probably be less people willing to tune in. But yeah, what was the overall score for this season? That is our next topic. So the overall score for this season was 62 out of 100, which is actually quite low, and there are quite a few negative points to this season, which I think it gets that low score from, and it is very low in terms of quality, I would say, compared to other seasons. I wouldn't say it's really an improvement on Steven Moffat's run at all. It's slightly worse, if you ask me, because I mean, Rosa was better than all of Steven Moffat's run, my opinion. Maybe barring Vincent and the Doctor. Maybe I think they're on par, really. And there were a few episodes that were better than quite a bit of Capaldi's run, and most of series and most of Matt Smith's run, but it's still very low in quality, and I think this is another lesson to be learned. Although I am quite annoyed that season 11 has been delayed to 2020, it is quality over quantity, so you need to be careful about what you prioritise, because clearly Chris Chibnall is struggling with the pressure of the BBC, otherwise he wouldn't have delayed it or cut the episode count, and it does appear that Chris Chibnall is struggling under the pressure. He hasn't talked much about it, he hasn't really acknowledged anything people have said. I mean, Jodie Whittaker and the cast have, but Chris Chibnall hasn't. Chris Chibnall's actually been quite quiet on the subject, which has surprised me, because really Chris Chibnall would have wanted to take ownership of his success, but he hasn't really. But yeah, delaying season 12 to 2020 is going to be a risk. Let's just hope it pays off. Of course, I did mention New Year's Day special is coming up only a few more weeks from now. Looking forward to that. But yeah, New Year's Day, Daleks probably. I also thought the Ice Warriors maybe, if they really wanted to twist things up. I really hope it's not the Cybermen, because they got used quite a lot during Capaldi's run, because of course Steven Moffat was trying to divert from the Daleks, I think, because there were a lot of Dalek stories at that point. And Steven Moffat isn't very good at writing Daleks. He sort of had them in the background and didn't write very many. I think he had a good strong Dalek story with Magician's Apprentice, and which is familiar. But also, if you really want to get loads and loads of viewers on New Year's Day, you do need to announce about the Daleks are coming out in the New Year's Day special. And the DWM is out tomorrow, so the news might break tomorrow of what species is in the New Year's Day special. The Ice Borers are actually quite a festive monster, so maybe it is them. I think Ice Borers, Daleks or Cybermen, potentially Sontarans, because there was quite a bit of talk about them, are the most likely candidates for the New Year's Day special, given the trailer. But we'll see, we'll see what it is. But yeah, this score out of 10, if we demoted it from 62 to 100, would be 6.2 out of 10, which is, if you think about it, is mainly down to the Chris Chibnall episodes bringing it quite low down. But yeah, 6.2 is quite a relatively okay score. It's just under a pass. I would just call this season a negative, but there is a lot of negatives and positives here. So yeah, there's a lot to complain about. There's also not that much as well. It's a very balanced season between negative and poor. Probably poor just having the upper hand on good. But yeah, I definitely think there's some things to focus about on this season, some points I've made. Let's just hope people listen in terms of it. But yeah, I know this has been a long video. My back hurts. I've been standing up this entire time. I'm thirsty, and I'm not going to probably do. This is quite strenuous actually. The amount of reviews I've pushed out every week. It's not like I get many views for them, but I guess, you know, not much really happens, but I still enjoy making them. So, you know, your likes, your comments, I know nobody comments, but yeah, I did gain some subscribers, even though it was only a few. I think it was 3 subscribers I gained, which is quite good. I'm not going to lie, I'm proud of myself. Even though it's just 3 subscribers, I'm proud of myself for doing that, because it does show this channel is sort of growing. But yeah, it was nice to have that sort of growth over this season. But yeah, I don't know what to do in the new year, so if you really have some suggestions, I could bring back some more coffee reviews, I could do some Doctor Who reviews. Clearly these Doctor Who reviews are popular, because more viewers have watched them than most of my other coffee reviews, or slash food reviews or whatever. So yeah, like, comment and subscribe down below. If you have enjoyed this video. Thanks for sticking with me for the long haul if you are still here. Yeah, thanks for watching and good night.